Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Let's decorate this beautiful whipped cream cake. Let me show you exactly how it was made. Okay, so this is my mixer and this is the whipped cream I'll be using. This is a powdered whipped cream and this is 1 kg. Okay, so I'm going to turn the entire pack into my mixer. So like I said, this is the powdered whipped cream. Okay, and I'm going to be adding cold water to this mixture. Okay, and my bowl is very cold. I left it in the fridge, so it's very cold. And this is very chilled water, not cool water. This is very cold. In fact, if possible, let there be ice in your water. Okay, so I'm adding in 2 cups. I've added 1 cup, and then this is the second cup. But from this second cup, I'm removing 3 tablespoons from it. Okay, so you can use the whole 2 cups of water, but and you still get your thick whipped cream. But if you want it extra thick, you just reduce the water a little. So I'm mixing the water and whipped cream together before I begin to whip. Okay, and this is what it looks like. It's extra thick. All right, so after that, I'm adding in just a few drops of flavor. You can add whatever flavor you prefer. I used vanilla here. Okay, so I want to explain something to you about this whisk, this particular balloon whisk. So if you look at the background of this video, you see another smaller mixer there. That's the mixer I usually use for my whipped cream cakes, but on this day I just decided to use this bigger mixer. And then I realized that my balloon whisk doesn't touch the bottom of the mixing bowl, as you can see here. Okay, it's not touching the bottom of the bowl, so it's not going to give me exactly what I want for the whipped cream. So I had to change it to this paddle attachment. This is the one I cream my cakes with, and it worked just fine. So this is just to tell you that both this whisk and the balloon whisk, this paddle attachment and the balloon whisk, both work fine for whipped cream. Okay, the ideal one is the first one I used. So what you use will just be dependent on the kind of mixer you have. For that my balloon whisk, it didn't give me what I wanted, but this attachment here, this particular one I'm using here, whipped it very well. Okay, so I stopped at intervals to mix, to scrape the sides of my bowl. I just stopped at intervals. I whipped all together, I think, for 3 to 4 minutes on high speed, 3 to 4 minutes on high speed, and then I'll stop at intervals to scrape the sides of the bowl. I hope you understand. Okay, so the ideal whisk is the first one I used, but this one I'm using now is just an alternative which also worked fine for me. Okay, and in the past I've also used my hand mixer and it whips it just fine. Okay, so this is what it looks like after creaming for about 3 minutes. Okay, it has gotten very thick already. Okay, so I'm just scraping the mixer down before I do the final mixing. All right, so keep an eye on it. Make sure you do not over mix or under mix. Okay, depending on the type of whipped cream you're using, it shouldn't be more than 3 to 4 minutes, highest 5 minutes. If you notice after 4 minutes that it's not thick, you shouldn't go beyond 5 minutes. So look at how very thick this one is. This is how you want your whipped cream to be. Okay, so let's decorate this cake now. So this is the cake I baked in the previous video, the red velvet and vanilla cake that I made in the previous video. Okay, so for all those who watched that one and you're here now, thank you so much for coming back. Thank you for always stopping by. Okay, so I'm just leveling the top of the cake, cutting off the top of the cake, and I'm applying just a thin layer of whipped cream to the center of the cakes. Now, depending on the request of your clients, some clients like a lot of whipped cream in between the cakes. If that's what they want, you give them that, okay? But otherwise, you just add a thin layer just to help stick the layers together. All right. So that's just what I'm doing here. Just a very thin coat of whipped cream in between the cakes. Um, and then I'm leaving the bigger part for the sides of the cakes. Okay. Okay, so here I'm going to trim the sides of the cakes. Okay, so the two benefits of this trimming is to get the sides of the cakes as straight as possible. Okay, and also to cut off the extra brown parts of the cake. If you notice, especially the red velvet cake, I left it in the oven longer than necessary and it got more brown than it should have been. Okay, so but with this trimming, I'll be able to get rid of those extra brown parts, and then also get the sides of the cakes as straight as possible. Okay, so now after that, crumb coating the cake with a very thin layer of whipped cream. This one helps to trap in the crumbs so that it doesn't get into the final coating. Okay, so I'm just applying a very thin layer of whipped cream all around the cake, as you can see me do here. Okay, so I'll do it on the sides and also on top of the cake, a very thin layer. And after you're done crumb coating with a thin layer, you want to make sure that there's no cake crumb still falling out, still no part of the cake is still exposed. Okay, that's what I'm trying to do here, to just cover up all the sides of the cake so that there's no crumbs coming out of any part of the cake. All right, so after the crumb coat, I'm now adding the final layer here. Okay, so at this point you want to generously coat the rest part of the cake with your whipped cream. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm just adding it bit by bit. There's another method for this, which is the piping method. Okay, but this is I'm used to this method and it's faster for me. Okay, so you want to carefully apply this second layer so that you don't so that crumbs don't come out to this final layer. Okay, so you want to add it little at a time, and then okay, so once you're done with the sides of the cake, you're going to start to coat the top. Okay, so if you notice, I didn't put the crumb coat on the top of the cake first, because that part of the cake is less likely to produce crumbs, okay, than the sides of the cake. So I'm covering the top of the cake carefully as well, and then I'm going to use my scraper to get the sides of the cake straight. Okay, so I'm just holding that scraper to the side of the cake. I'm not moving that hand. I'm just holding it against the cake and turning the turntable. It's the cake that is turning, not the turntable. Okay, so if you notice, I'm just holding it in place on the side of the cake. This is a designed um, scraper. You just hold it in place and then turn the cake. I'm sorry you didn't see it exactly. That's because that hand is my right hand. Okay, um and then after that, it's quite easy to do. You hold it in place while rotating the cake, and then the designs will just come on the body of the cake. And then I scraped off the top with my palette knife, and this is the nozzle I'm going to use. So I'm filling this piping bag now with my whipped cream. Okay, so I'm filling the piping bag with my whipped cream, and that nozzle, you saw the nozzle that I'm using. I'm going to use it both for the top and the bottom to do two different designs. Okay, Okay, so these are edible pearls, edible gold. I'm going to use edible gold pearls and edible white pearls to design. Okay, so you want to only add the edible ones. All right, so I'm just because the whipped cream is sticky, whatever I throw on it will just stick. All right, so that's what you can see here. Okay, so I'm going to also decorate with the white tiny ones. All right, so these are the white tiny ones. I'm just going to spray them on the cake and they will just stick. Okay, so these are just decorations. From here on, these are just decorations that I just use to beautify the cake. Okay, according to the client's request, and I'm adding these non-edible ball decorations. Okay, these are just mainly for design. All right, so thank you so much, guys, for all those who have stayed up to this point. If you've watched to this point, thank you so much for stopping by. Okay, please click on the like button if you haven't done so already, and if you have any question you can leave it in the comment section. Okay, and I will be sure to respond. Thank you so much for always stopping by. And please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, click on the subscribe button and I will be so grateful you did so. Thank you so much. This is our whipped cream cake. If you have any question or if there's anything that I didn't explain properly, you can call me back and I'll be happy to explain it to you. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.